If you're running two call closes, you most likely think high ticket just works that way, that serious buyers need time, that your offer is too complex to close in one call, or that you just need more touch points to sell your high ticket offer. But none of that's true. A two call close isn't a feature of high ticket sales, it's a symptom of a broken pre call infrastructure. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly why and what founders who can close in one call are doing differently. So what you need to understand is that two call closes aren't a sales skill problem, they are just deficit disguised as a sales process. So when most people run two call closes, this is what it looks like. So call one is pure discovery and education. You ask questions trying to figure out if they are fit to work with you. You educate them about your process, your methodology, why you're different, how you're different to your competitors. You build rapport, you build trust, and only after that do you have the second call, which is your main sales call, where you actually pitch your offer and try to close them. But how is it that the best are able to run one call closes? How are they able? It's because they have planted the entire first call into their pre-call sequence, into their pre-call system. So all the trust and clarity is handled before the call. So the lead already arrives at the call knowing exactly what you do, how your process works, and how you're different to everyone else in your market. And they already trust you. They believe that you can solve their problems and get them to the desired outcome. And they have also been able to put most of the discovery into their pre-call system. So they don't need to ask the same 20 questions every single sales call. And in reality, they haven't put the entirety of call one into their pre-call system. They have probably put 80% of it. But now they can put the 20% of call one that's remaining into call two. And that way they can have a one call close. Because most likely your call two is not that long. So you can very easily put 20% of call one with call two. But the thing you need to understand is that the reason you can't have a one call close right now is because leads don't arrive at call one with enough trust, clarity, or education to make a buying decision. So you have to build all of that live manually on a 60-minute discovery call, which means call one wasn't actually a sales call, it was a pre-call sequence being delivered by a real-time human. And this is what most people are going to think when they hear me talking about this. They say, high ticket just requires more touch points. They say my offer is complex. People need time to understand it. They say the first call is for diagnosis, the second call is for the real pitch. They say serious buyers want to think about it. They say two call closes filter out tire kickers. But all of this is so easily done before the first call. And I'm not saying that you should automate everything and fuck the quality of everything. You can actually do this before the first call. Partly automated and partly yourself, but not on the call. And yes, high ticket requires many touch points, but most of those touch points can happen before the call. And if you're able to explain your offer in 45 minutes during calls, then you're able to record you explaining it once. You are able to do 60% of the diagnosis through your qualification form and through SMS before the call. All serious buyers think before the call. You need to understand that most people have made a buying decision before they ever jump on a call with you. They already know if they will buy or not. Most serious people won't ever book a call with you if they can't do their research before it. So by letting these people do their research before the call, A, you can get many more booked calls, but they will also show up to the call ready to work with you. You know, what I will talk about in this video won't hinder them doing their research, it will encourage it. And then lastly, if you're doing your qualification during the discovery call, then you're doing it all wrong. And I believe most of you aren't doing this, but the qualification is done in the qualification form. You should never let someone who's even remotely unqualified book a call and speak with you. And you know, one of the biggest reasons why you have to go closes is because you create the proposal for the client after the first call. And that's why you accept running two call closes. But as I said, with the correct pre-call system, you can very easily do 60% or more of the diagnosis before the first call. So with the correct system, you are going to be able to have an 80% pre-made proposal by call one. Now that way, you don't need the call two. And you know, all 5 of these are lies that founders tell themselves to justify an inefficient sales process they haven't fixed. Because the truth is that the lead walked into call one without enough trust, clarity, education, or belief to commit, and you also didn't have enough information about the lead to know if you're fit to work together. And every single one of these beliefs is just cope for that one root cause. And I want to show to you with some math why two call closes are, you know, so bad. And these numbers may be a bit exaggerated, but I want to drive the point across. You know, you can very easily have the same leads, the same offer, the same ads, but get 2 times the revenue, 2 times the profit if you run one call closes. And even if you make exactly the same amount of money you make right now, but with one call closes, that's still a very big benefit. And let me explain. So let's first start with the exaggerated numbers to drive the point across. So business A, they run a 2 call close, and business B runs a 1 call close. So let's assume both of them get 40 booked calls. But because business A runs a 2 call close, They don't pitch on the first call. They're not making an offer. So they need to book a call number 2. But you're always going to have a show-up rate between call 1 and call 2. And I've seen some people with a 50% show-up rate between call 1 and call 2. That means that they lose half the people. So now business A only gets to pitch to 20 people. And if you have a 40% close rate, they close 8 clients. But business B, because they don't have a second call, they have, 100% show-up rate to call 2, because call 2 and call 1 is in the same call. So they get to pitch their offer to all 40 booked calls. And if they have the same close rate, 40%, they're gonna close 16 clients. And this is twice revenue, twice the profit also. But in reality, your show-up rate is going to be more than 50%. It might be, let's say 75% or more. And on call 2, your close rate is going to be higher. Your close rate is maybe, 50%. And if you run a one call close, you're probably not going to have a 40% close rate. Your close rate is maybe, 30%. But even if, let's say, both business A and business B both get 10 clients, business B still has a way better sales process for a couple of reasons. Well, first of all, they require half the calls that business A requires. Business A needs to have 40 plus 30 calls. So business A has 70 calls in total. Meanwhile, business B only has to run 40 calls. And if you have to run more calls, you have to hire more closers, more status. You just need a bigger team. You need more employees. Employees are not cheap. You're going to lose profits. You're going to lose money by hiring more employees. The second thing is that your calendar is going to be more filled. Some of these second calls are going to block, time slots that, new qualified leads would have booked. So you're going to be losing on new booked calls because your calendar is just way too filled up. And then the last problem is that your sales cycle is much longer with 2 calls. You're probably spending money on ads. So if you can get your money back 3 days quicker, that's a big benefit for you. And there are many, many more problems with running a 2-call close, and I could go into detail, and I will go into detail. Some of you will get the reference, but, let's stop with the humor now and actually get into it. But every 2-call close bleeds in 7 core places. The first is again the drop off between both of the calls. So again, as I said, there's always going to be a show-up rate between both of the calls. So everyone who no-shows, they just waste their potential. It just ad spend straight in the bin. It's fewer leads to compete your offer to. So problem 1 is very, very clear. Then the second problem is that prospects, they cool off between call 1 and call 2 because people make their buying decisions in certain emotional states. And between call 1 and call 2, they leave that emotional state. They Google you, they Google your competitors, they talk themselves out of it. So the urgency they felt on call 1 is now gone. And that doesn't have a great effect on your close rates. And then the third problem is paradox of choice. They have had time to gather more information, compare alternatives, and introduce doubt. And a lead with 48 hours to think and search up information, well, they will become confused. And then the fourth thing I touched upon is that your cash conversion cycle becomes longer. And you're spending ad money to acquire this lead. And every day they don't close is cash locked up away from you. And when you're running ads, you need the cash back fast to reinvest it. Then the next problem is that your calendar slots, again, are wasted, as I told you. You're going to need almost 2 times the calendar slots if you're running 2-call closes. And as I told you, that's a time slot that a new qualified lead could have booked. You're just blocking new pipeline. And if you don't want to block your pipeline, then you will need to expand your sales team. And this is also a problem because more of the money that you make will be spent on new hires. And then the last problem is that your feedback loop is slower. For example, if you would change your pricing, you require 2 calls to actually know the effects of your pricing change. So you learn slower, and that means that you will be iterating slower. You will be moving slower than all your competitors, and that's not good. And most founders run 2-call closes even though there are so many problems and downsides to it because they think it's required. But let me show you why it isn't required. And the reason why it's not required is because there are only 2 main reasons why you need to have a 2-call close, and both of those are fixable. But there are also 2, other reasons, which I will touch upon, but the 2 main ones are a lack of education and a lack of clarity. So the first thing is that your lead shows up at the call knowing nothing about what you do, how it works, why it works, or how you're different to other competitors out in your market. So, call 1 becomes a pure 45-minute education session where you explain your methodology in depth. You just educate them on everything they need to know. And after this 45-minute education session, there's no energy left to sell, and that's why you have a second call for the selling itself. And again, this education that you do on calls for your leads, all the explanation about your offer, your methodology, your process, all of this can be done in the pre-call system, because if you're able to explain it, over and over again to every single lead, then you're able to record it once. And the second issue here with the lack of clarity, the prospect, they don't really understand what you sell. They don't really understand what problem you solve or the outcome that you provide. Because in your marketing process, your messaging is trying to be very clever instead of being clear. Your ad says one thing, your landing page says one thing, your VSL says one thing. You introduce like 8 new things every single page. You have a unique methodology here, and people are just confused about what problems you solve and what outcome you provide. And if there's not clarity, if they don't understand what they're buying, what they're booking a call for, then there's no way they're going to buy. And that's why you need the discovery call so that the lead can, actually understand what you're selling. Because without the discovery part, then they would never buy your offer. So the only way you can sell your high ticket offer is if you have a pure education, call before the main call. But this is all fixable. And these are the 2 other reasons why you have a 2-call close. And again, these both are also fixable. So the first is that you build trust on call 1 from the ground up every single time. You build rapport with your leads so that when you pitch your offer to them, they will already like and trust you. But the problem is that you're building this trust and rapport from the ground up, from zero, every single sales call and over again for every single new lead. But instead, you could build this trust and rapport before the call started. And I'm not saying that you can build 100% of the trust and rapport in your pre-call system. And I'm not saying that you fully automate it either. I'm saying that you can very easily build 80% of all the trust and rapport before the call has even started. And the same thing here. You obviously need information about your leads to know if you're a fit to work together and to build, the proposal for them. But you can very easily get most of this information before the call has even started. And I'm going to show you in this video how to fix all of these 4 reasons so that you can move to 1-call closes instead of 2-call closes. And I know this is also something that you would want. No one likes talking about the same stuff over and over again on every single call. I'm sure you don't like explaining and educating your offer for 45 minutes every single call. That's not enjoyable. So when you run a 2-call close, call 1 isn't a sales call. It's a pre-call sequence delivered by a human. Instead of it being delivered by video assets, SMS, and email that almost cost you nothing to run, it's being delivered by you live in real time, one prospect at a time, using the most expensive resource you have, your attention. When a lead opts in and books a call, there are certain things that they need in order for them to be ready for the sales call, in order for them to be in the right emotional state to actually buy from you. They need all the necessary information, they need clarity, and they need trust. But instead of it being delivered by pre-call assets, for example, in your VSL, thank you page, emails, videos, SMS, it's being delivered live by you, as I said. And this is the most expensive pre-call asset in all of business. You're explaining your methodology on every single call over and over again. You're handling the same 5 objections every single time. You answer questions every single time, like who have you worked with before and so on. And you also build trust from the ground up through your stories, through your expertise, through your knowledge for every single lead. Instead, that trust could be built automatically before the call, so you don't have to do it over and over again. There are 2 levels of conversion that needs to happen before the call. First is trust. The lead thinks, do I believe this person can actually help me? And you need to answer that question before the call. And the second is clarity. Your leads are thinking, do I understand what I'm buying? And if they don't understand what they're getting themselves into, then they will never buy. So both of these need to be handled before the call so that you can move to 1-call closes. And that means that the second call, or the only call you have now, becomes a confirmation and not persuasion. But right now, most founders are trying to build both of these live during the first call, and that's why it takes 2 calls to close. So if you can move these into the pre-call system, then we can finally run 1-call closes. And here is also something that most founders never connect. Your close rate gap is a trust gap. So if you have closers, if you have a sales team, they are probably not closing as well as you do. And that's all a trust gap. And the thing that most founders usually don't connect is that the same solution to fix your 2-call closes will fix this closing problem. So the reason why you as the founder are able to close at, let's say, 35% is because you are able to build trust live during the call. You are able to educate the prospect. So you have your knowledge, you have your expertise. You are able to build a trust through reading a room, through stories. But your salespeople, your closer, they don't have the same expertise. They don't have the knowledge. So they can't build the same trust and they can't educate the lead in the same way. And that's the reason why they have a lower close rate. And it's all because you are closing through consultative selling. And consultative selling is a very great way to actually close your clients. But instead of you being the only one who can do this, you should put that consultative, part into the pre-call system so that you have built all that trust before the call, and that means that your closer will be able to close as well as you do, because they don't have to build the trust themselves. They don't have to do the education themselves, because that education and trust building has happened before the call. The only thing you need to do is that you have built trust for yourself, so you just now need to transfer that trust to the closer, and that means that they will be able to close as well as you do. But now let's get to the 6 assets that actually solve this problem for you. So the first thing you need to have is a clear VSL, and this VSL should convey only one idea driven extremely deep and in third grade clarity. You shouldn't try to be clever here, you just need people to understand exactly the problems that you solve and the benefits you provide. Because again, if people don't understand, if people don't really know what you do, what problems you solve, if they don't know what they get themselves into, then A, most people won't ever book a call, but the ones that show up, they will have so many questions and it would be a nightmare. So you shouldn't layer your VSL with like 8 unique mechanisms and here and there. You shouldn't, don't try to be clever again. Be clear. They need to know exactly what you do and in their own language, in their own words that they use. And the second part is a thank you page. And this thank you page needs to be engineered around consumption. There are two, thank you pages that I see way too often. The first is a thank you page with like nothing on it, only like thanks for booking a call. That's the only thing they have there. And the second is a thank you page where there are so many things on there. There are like 15 videos, 10 different steps to complete, and then no one will consume anything. So this VSL page needs to be engineered around consumption. And I have just created another video exactly about the thank you page, so you can go watch that video after this one. But this thank you page needs to have a consumption journey. You need to have no dead ends and guide them through it so that they actually do everything you want them to do. So what should you have on the thank you page? Firstly, you want to have objection handling videos, and these are videos where you handle your most common objections, but where you also answer people's most common questions that they have. So very simply, what you want to do, you take your 20 last sales call transcripts, feed those into AI, and tell it to extract all your most common objections and questions. Then you record videos for each one, 1 to 3 minutes each, where you answer that question, pre-handle that objection, so that when they show up to the call, they already have all the questions answered. All the objections are already pre-handled, and this makes the sale so much easier. Then the fourth thing you need to have, and this is also on your thank you page, is a methodology explainer. So this is a long form video. So this video should be from 10 minutes all the way to like 25 minutes. And in that video, you want to go in depth about your methodology, your process, exactly how it works, why it works, and how you're different to all the competitors out in the market. So as I said, this video should be on your thank you page, and this video should be hosted on YouTube, because that does a few things. Firstly, after they watch that video, they will be able to go to your channel and they will be recommended a few other of your videos. So now after this, they can go and watch more of your videos on your channel, and that will educate them even more. But the thing is that in this video, you want to put all of your education that you repeat on every single course. Everything that you always say on your sales calls should be put in this video. All the education, all the explanation should be put in this video. Instead of you saying it over and over again, you just record it once, put that video on the thank you page, and force everyone to watch that video before a first call. Now they know exactly what to do, how your process works, they know your methodology, they know how you're different, so then you can instantly get to the selling part. And the fifth thing is personal touch points. The things that you want to build a real personal connection with your leads before the call. They need to see you as a friend. You need to have a friend-like relation before they ever show up to the call. And you do this by having, personal touch points with them before the call. First thing, I have videos on this, but you want to, as a founder, you want to record a selfie video for every lead before the call, 30 seconds. That's the first thing. But your closer also needs to record a Loom video of yourselves showing something that is set up for the call. And then also on the thank you page, you want to ask all your leads to send you a message, yes, I will show up, to confirm their call. And after they send that message to you, yes, I will show up, then you want to continue that conversation with them. You want to hold the conversation with them in your messages before the call. And in this, conversation, there you want to ask them your, discovery questions. And you can tell the lead straight up, if I ask these questions now, the call will be shorter and quicker because, no one likes to waste time on a call. Your leads, they don't enjoy being on, 2 1-hour calls with you. Your leads would rather have a 1 30-minute call if it would be possible. So if you can ask your discovery questions in SMS before the call, then that's a huge benefit. And this does 2 things. It builds trust, it builds personal connection, but it also reduces the discovery part you have on your calls. And then the 6th and last thing is your qualification form. And I know all of you have qualification forms, but if you get unqualified people on your calls, if you're using your first call to weed out all the unqualified ones, then you're doing things wrong. Your qualification forms, they should filter out all the unqualified ones. Only people you could work with should be able to show up to your calls. And if you implement all of these 6 things that I told you, then call 1 just becomes the close. It just becomes confirmation, and none of the persuasion, no education, no trust building. All of that is built before the call. So, no diagnostics, no education, no second call. It just becomes more simpler, and it's a benefit for both you and the lead. But I know so many of you will have questions after this, and I will answer them for you. The first thing you will say is that my offer is too complex. It genuinely needs explanation. But again, as I told you, no offer is too complex to be explained in a VSL where you explain the problems and the outcome that it provides, and in a methodology video that goes on a thank you page. Because if you can explain your offer during call one, during a 45-minute education process, then again you can record it once. You can record a video once where you do that education and put it on a thank you page. You put the problem and the desire part on your VSL that goes before the booking, and all the more logical process things go on your thank you page. You just have to make sure that every lead consumes both of those videos, because otherwise they are completely useless. The second thing is that call one builds rapport, and you can't automate rapport. And the thing is that you're not automating rapport with this pre-call system. You're automating the trust and clarity that should exist before rapport even matters. Because rapport is built in minutes on well-run calls when the lead already trusts you. But rapport takes 45 minutes when you're also building trust from zero at the same time. So the pre-call system just makes the rapport much shorter. So rapport is only built in like 5 minutes during the call. But rapport is also built during the pre-call system. These personal touch points, the conversation you have with them before the call, that builds some of the rapport. So you're going to have some of the rapport built before the call because you have built the personal connection. You have had a conversation with them, and you have sent a selfie video, so they have already seen you. They already know that you have put some effort for them. So 50% of the rapport is already built once I show up to the call, but then the other 50% can be built in like 5 minutes. So it's not going to be a problem because the trust is already there. And then the third thing you might say is that my prospects, they need time. My prospects, they want to think about it. And what you need to understand is that I need to think about it is not a personality type. It's a symptom of unresolved objections and unclear understanding. When the objections are handled and the understanding is clear, prospects don't need to think about it. They are ready to make a buying decision. The thinkers, they are not a segment of your market. They are the output of a process that left them uncertain. And then the last thing that I forgot to add is that some of you may think that serious buyers, they do more due diligence, that they want to be on 2 calls, they want to do the research. And the thing is that they want to do the research, but they do their research before the call. They do their due diligence before they ever book a call with you. They watch your content, they watch your case studies, they research your methodology, and all of this happens before they ever have booked a call with you, before they ever speak with you. So by having a 1 call close, you're not hindering serious buyers from doing their research, you're actually encouraging it. You're putting more material out there for them to do their research. And what you also need to understand is that if there is no material for them to do their research, then most of the serious buyers, they will never book a call. They won't book a call if they can't do their research. So by creating all of these assets, you will get more serious people to book a call with you. You will actually help them. You won't hinder them at all. So just to summarize, there are only 2 things you need to do to be able to move to 1 call closes. The first thing is that the lead needs to have all the information, trust, and clarity in order to make a buying decision, and you need all the info about the lead to know if you're a good fit to work together. And if you can do both of these things before a call, then you're going to be able to change to 1 call closes. And if you want more information on how to do this exactly, I've created an entire video about the pre-call system, how to engineer it and everything. So I will link that video in the description below, so go and watch that one. But if you have any more questions, I will put my Instagram in the description below, so feel free to shoot me a DM and I will be more than happy to help you out. See you in the next one.